Moses, who grew up in Egypt, left Egypt. He discovered that he was a Hebrew, um, and he found a man, an Egyptian man, who was abusing one of his fellow Hebrew brothers. Um, an Egyptian man was over whipping a task, you say a task leader, um, was over whipping one of the Hebrew brothers because he wasn't doing the job what he wanted to do. Because at that time the Hebrews were the ones building, the pyramids, the Sphinx. Um, they were there for over 430 years, right? Um, Building, and then they had the Egyptian task leaders who were guiding them what to do, right? And so this Hebrew fellow Egyptian, this is in Exodus 2, right, verse 14, starting from verse 13 and 14, where he would just he was over abusing the fellow Hebrew for not doing what he called him to do. So Moses ended up, killing him because of his uh, abuse. Moses, who grew up in Egypt, who left Egypt, and lived with a man named Jethro, a Midian priest. So he left a comfort as a prince in Egypt, discovering that he was a Hebrew, and he left there. And Jethro took him in, um, and also allowed him to work with him. So he was a shepherd for Jethro, for his father-in-law, at Mount Horeb. One day he was just shepherding the sheep, okay, and an angel of the Most High appeared to him through a burning fire, a burning bush, and the fire was lit. However, the bush was not burning, right? So the fire was, it was, it was lit up, but but it didn't consume the bush. It was a very amazing sight. So it caught Moses' attention. He wanted to go see what was going on. Um, so as he went, right, a voice came through the bush saying, "Moses, Moses." And he said, "Here I am." And he said, "Do not come near here. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place which you are standing is set apart ground. It's holy ground." All right, so I'm reading from Exodus chapter 3. Okay. Um, so as he did that, the Most High started to tell him, inform him his mission, his purpose. He said, "I am the Elohim. I am the El of your father. I am the El of your father, the El of Abraham, the El of Yishak, and the El of Yakub." And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at El. And Yah said, "I have indeed seen the oppression of my people who are in Mizraim, who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their slave drivers, for I know their sorrows. And I have come down to deliver them from the hand of the Egyptian, and to bring them up from that land to a good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to a place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. And now I see the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppressed them. And now, come, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moses said to El, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? All right, so you can see here the Most High is given purpose. He's sharing the purpose of Moses. You know, when Moses was born, this was during the time when Pharaoh was persecuting the Hebrews. It was a different Pharaoh that knew Joseph that was reigning this time. It was a different Pharaoh. And he was afraid of the Hebrews because there were a lot of them in Egypt at the time. Afraid of their population was constantly growing, and they were very industrious as a people, fertile as a people. And he wanted to get rid of them, you know, being scared that they would one day take over Egypt. So they decided to enslave them and have them building the pyramids, Sphinx, right? So Moses ended up growing there because during that time he was persecuting especially the males, and his mom covered him up and hid him in the basket, and put him in the water, and he ended up in the land where Pharaoh's daughter was bathing, and she found him and drew him out of the water. And she called his name Moses, which means one drawn out of the water. And the water was a symbolic of people. So he was drawn out in order to be able to lead, especially his people, Israel, right? So yeah, this is, the Most High coming to him of Israel, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to go deliver his people, all right? Like I said, I'm reading from Exodus chapter 3, continuing verse 12. And he said, because I am with you, and this is to you the sign that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you are to serve Elohim on this mountain. Okay, and remember, he was in Mount Horeb. And Moses said to El, see, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, the El of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? And El said to Moses, I am that I am. He said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. So here's I am, okay? That's why Jesus, Yeshua, says, I am. Before Abraham was, I am. I am the truth, the life, the way. Okay, so he is the I am. And in the Igbo language, when he says, what is his name? And when we say his name, we say Ahaya. That's where we get the word Ahaya. Okay, Ahaya, which his name. Umbu, Onyum Umbu, right? So I am that I am, right? We call him in the Igbo language Chukwu or Chineke, the creator. The Elohim, El, the creator. Let's continue the self-existent one. That's what it say, Yah. umbu, onye, umbu. And El said further to Moses, thus you are to say to the children of Israel, Yahweh, El of your fathers, the El of Abraham, the El of Yishak, and the El of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my remembrance to all generations. Okay? Abum ihe mbu. I am that I am. Abum ihe mbu. I am that I am. Ahaya abum ihe mbu. Abum ihe mbu. Go and you shall gather the elders of Israel together and say to them, Yah, Elohim of your fathers, the El of Abraham, of Ishak, and of Jacob, appeared to me, saying, I have indeed visited you, and seen what is done to you in Egypt. I say, I am bringing you out of the affliction of Egypt to the land of the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Amorite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite, to a land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall listen to your voice, and you shall come, you and the elders of Israel, to the king of Egypt, and you shall say to him, Yah Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us, and now please let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness to slaughter to Yahweh our Elohim, to El. So you can see here that he specified that he is the El of the Hebrews. Okay? Okay? And the word Hebrew comes from the word Iber, which thus come the common word Ebo. All right? So he's the El of the Hebrews, the Ebos. All right? No other gods, no other religion. He's the El of the Hebrews, of Iber, descendants of Iber, the Ebos. All right? And we're going to go, talk more about that. But those who decide to follow him and follow his ways, they are considered Hebrew Israelite. Okay? The word Israelite come from Jacob. His name was changed from Jacob to Israel. So that nation, that group of people are now considered Hebrew Israelite. That's where we get that word, because he's he's the El of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right, let's continue. Verse 19. I'm reading Exodus chapter 3. Let's continue verse 19. But I know that the king of Egypt is not going to let you go. So El, he's all-knowing. Yah, he's all-knowing. Abum, ihe, umbu. I am that I am. That's I am that I am in Igbo. He knows, he's all-knowing. He knows the future. He knew ahead of time that the Pharaoh was going to refuse to let his people go. Okay, so he says, not even by a strong hand, right? Because he's going to do plagues in Egypt. And I shall stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all my wonders, which I shall do in its midst. And after that he shall let you go. And I shall give this people favor in the eyes of the Egyptians. And it shall be that when you go, and you shall not go empty-handed, but every woman shall ask from her neighbor and from her who sojourns in her house objects of silver and objects of gold and garments, and you shall put them on your sons and your daughters, and you shall plunder the Egyptians. Okay? All right. Now, Moses is hearing all of this. He's like, wow, right? So chapter 4, he goes into the signs. He's going to show Moses that he is with him. He's going there with power. And Moses answered and said, and if they do not believe me, nor listen to my voice, and say, Yah has not appeared to you. Okay, so he's saying like if they come and start doubting him for all these things I'm telling them, right? That you've told me. What is that? They start saying, okay, but he has not appeared to you. And Yah said to him, what is this that's in your hand? And he said, a rod. So he had a rod because he was a shepherd and or staff. And the rod was used to direct the sheep, right? Make sure they're not going astray. There's one going astray from the flock in order to not be isolated. And then when it goes astray, it gets eaten up by a wolf or lion or hyena. So he has to use that rod to keep them aligned. And sometimes you do some correction with that rod, right? You know, so that was like metaphorically as well as physically. So the shepherds always have that rod. And when David says, the Most High is our shepherd, I should not want. So he corrects us, those he loves, to make sure we align and going straight, the straight path, and he's comfort. We find comfort because he's a shepherd. He corrects us with that. That rod and that staff, they comfort me. That's what David said. So they, given the discipline, it gives comfort. Verse 3, and he said, throw it on the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from it. He was like, whoa. That's a natural reaction when we see a serpent. It's a natural thing because it's such a creature that, it moves with no arms, it slithers. And the way it moves is just very uncomfortable. Most people, when you see it, you just naturally just move. You got to get away. It's a very dangerous creature. And Yahweh said to Moses, reach out your hand and seize it by the tail. So he reached out his hand and took hold of it, and it became a rod in his hand. So that's one thing that you never do, holding a snake by its tail. It automatically bites, right? But Yah is telling him to do Abum, Ihe, Umbu. It's informing Moses to do what you naturally shouldn't do. So just to move in faith. So he did that, grabbed it by the tail, and it formed back to a rod. And he was like, wow, okay, there's some power right here. So he's showing him that he's all powerful, that he's going there to Egypt to go deliver his people with some power. Because the Egyptians also, especially the pharaohs, feel like gods. They definitely had magicians and all kinds of witchcraft going on there as well. So he's going there with power. Verse 5, so that they believe that Yah, Elohim, El of their fathers, the El of Abraham, the El of Yishak, and the El of Jacob has appeared to you. And Yah said to him again, now there's another sign. Okay, so you can see here, this how it shows proof that the Israelites, the Hebrews, they were also melanated people, black people. And Yah said to him again, now put your hand in your bosom. And he put his hand in his bosom, and when he took it out, and see his hand was leprous, like snow. So leprosy was a type of disease where the skin turns completely white, and pretty much it's like a skin disease, right? It would normally happen. It was as a result of, a lot of times like a curse when that happened when people had lepers back then, and they had to be set apart, separate from the people, right? So that way that contaminate or affect other people. They had to be set apart for a couple of days if they're in the group or in the camp of tents of Israelites. They had to be separate until they're healed and delivered, right? And going back to what I said, so about the Israelites being melanated. Now that doesn't When it comes to salvation, that doesn't matter, because if you're melanated, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. You believe in the Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus Christ, and receive him in your heart, receive his spirit, and walk in his commandments, statute, and judgment, you're part of Israel. Okay, no matter where you're from. But this is just for historical context. Continuing, verse 7. And he said, put your hand in your bosom again. So he's after he put his hand first time, his hand turned white as leprosy, right? Leprous like snow. And he said, put your hand back, right? So put your hand in your bosom again. So he put his hand in his bosom again and drew it out of his bosom, and see, it was restored like his other flesh. Wow. And Moses was just wow. And then he's, verse 8, and he said, it shall be, if they do not believe you, nor listen to the voice of the first sign, they shall believe the voice of the latter sign. So Yah was showing him that he was going there with power, okay, because he's all powerful, he's almighty. And he's also showing that, she's going to go there in Egypt, that he's the true Elohim, because not only is he going to deliver his people, but he was also dually showing that he was the Almighty, because, like I said, the pharaohs and the Egyptians felt that they were the powerhouse, which they were leading the nation at one point, the nation, the world. So they feel like the gods, the Almighty. They have magic and witchcraft, all those things. So they feel like they were all powerful. Elohim was also showing that he's the Almighty, the true and only Elohim, the true and only El, the true and only Yah. Abum, Ihe, Umbu. I am that I am. The I am. So thank you for listening. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. You can also comment. All right. Bless y'all. Shalom. Shalom.